This week I learned it's time to get the weekly updates back on Friday. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update, the last for the month of September. It's officially fall. Spooky season is a go, and things are ramping up in that direction as I clear the decks, getting ready to talk a little pumpkin. So, guys, this week has been quite unusual. We're going to kind of get into that as we go along. But let's go ahead and begin like usual. Talk about what am I reading. I did finish Blood Song, and it's not really much of a change from what I said last week. So I'm not going to regurgitate everything I said last week. But what I'll say is this will probably be on my biggest disappointments list at the end of the year. Now, I want to preface that by saying, again, it's not a bad book. I don't feel like I was miserable reading it or whatever. My expectations were just cranked to 11 for this author and this book because it is damn near universal acclaim. And once I started digging a little deeper into some of the Goodreads reviews, because I was like, am I missing something? What is it that people love so much about this? And it got lots of Name of the Wind comparisons, and I just realized, okay, so people who love Name of the Wind really love this book. I have to remember sometimes that I have quite the unpopular opinion on Name of the Wind, and that it's a book that just like I can acknowledge why people love it. I just don't understand why I can't love it the way that they do. Kind of the same with this. I just felt like the protagonist didn't really have any struggle whatsoever. He was always the best at everything. And I know you're going to get that with the whole unreliable narrator. It's just something I don't like. I'm not into that. I'm not into look how awesome I am while I tell my life story. It's just not something for me. And of course, the big climax in the framing story that you're building up to was the worst climax for a big fight like that I've seen since Reaper's Gale. It was such a letdown. And again, so I don't think it was for me. So when people were like, hey, don't just treat Bloodsong as a standalone, no problem with that, because that's what I'm going to do. I don't think I'll be continuing with that. If I continue with Anthony Ryan, it'll be those dragon books that ℂ𝕬𝕤𝕣𝕠𝕜 recommended to me. I forget, they're *Draconis Memoria. I think that's what they're called. It'll either be that or Covenant of Steel would be what I go to next. But for now, yeah, I'm thinking Raven's Shadow, not going to be my thing. I am literally like 20 pages from the end of A Canticle for Leibowitz. Again, don't want to repeat everything I said last week, but I can see why this book is so revered. Part one, I adored. Thought it was just peak post-apocalyptic stuff. That's everything that I want in that kind of story. Part two, kind of, I don't really understand what they were trying to do there. I could see, again, understand that they're just dealing with this, Miller's trying to tell us this cyclical nature of humanity, how we're always going to repeat the same mistakes. But then part three, it basically becomes like a science fiction novel, and it's been very, very interesting. And I really am, like I said, with like 20 pages left, I'm not quite sure how it's going to end here. But I've enjoyed this ride very much, and I can see why this book is so highly recommended. If I was remaking that list of my favorite post-apocalyptic stories, this would definitely be on there, even with being part two kind of being like a... And I think that part two will be something that I look back on after I'm finished and I have different feelings about it. But while I was reading, I think that part one was just so excellent. The part two, I didn't really like the shifting gears. Maybe think of The Passage. You guys remember that? Justin Cronin with The Passage, where like the first third is amazing and then it just falls off a cliff. That's kind of the feeling I was getting worried about, but part three did course correct. And again, I think upon reflection, I think I'll appreciate part two more when I see everything he was trying to do here. But yeah, this is a book that has met the hype that it has gotten. And I think it's very good. And I'm not going to talk about it more because I think I'm going to do an individual review for this because I think it does deserve it. Again, this is an all-time classic for a reason. And I kind of want to talk about it a little more in depth than I would just here on a weekly update. But yeah, very, very satisfied with that. And I can't wait to read more of these big, big hitters in the sci-fi post-apocalyptic genre because I think that there's plenty of things to talk about there. So how about what am I going to read, guys? I picked up The Hollow Places, and I was going to start it at the same time. And that says, stop it. Finish that off, and then start your spooky season reads fresh. So I'll be starting The Hollow Places this weekend, and super excited to do it because apparently it is kind of an author that is doing her take on The Willows by Algernon Blackwell, which is a story I really do love. And again, I've been looking for some new modern horror authors. And I have some really big hits this year. I think I've become a Ronald Malfi fan. I've become a Grady Hendrix fan. There are others, Nick Cutter, that I've really gotten into, and I'm hoping that T. Kingfisher could be the next one. Because a lot of people that read those same books really recommend T. Kingfisher a lot. And I said, I get T. Kingfisher recommended so much in my Stephen King videos. And I don't know if that's just coincidence or they just think that's the best place to reach someone who reads Stephen King. I'm not really sure. But I'm excited to check her book out. And looking at it, it's only like 300 pages, and that's very exciting to a fantasy reader. After you've read a couple of heavy hitters like I have here, it'll be a nice, refreshing change of pace as we kick off spooky season officially. And since it's so short, if I do finish that during the week, I was thinking I'll do All the Fiends of Hell. That's going to be the second book in spooky season I had planned. That is by Adam Neville. It's just an alien invasion story, so I feel like I'm kind of getting my sci-fi horror in there a little bit. But in case you guys didn't hear or you didn't see it on Instagram, I did actually get a review copy of The Devils by ℒ𝕬𝕒𝕬𝕤. And it was hard not to just start it immediately last night. So I'm very excited. Look, it doesn't come out until May. I already told... it would be rude of me to say, hey, John Gwynn, I can't read your book until November because I already have spooky season plans. And then ℒ𝕬𝕒𝕬𝕤 shows up like, oh, hey, Joe, come on in. Pull up a chair. Let's talk. So I'm using much restraint, but I think I'm going to try to do my spooky season reads first and then try to figure out what I'm going to do with the Devils. Maybe it'll affect my November plans, but it's not something I'm going to wait on because obviously it's a ℒ𝕬𝕒𝕬𝕤 book. And Joe, like Stephen King, cuts straight to the front of the line on these things. So I'm using great restraint. And as of right now, that's how I feel. But who knows? I might be doing this review next week. But yeah, so I'm halfway done with the Devils. But it's very exciting. I'm super hyped that Tor actually approved me because Tor usually does not approve me. But to be fair, that's usually just Brandon Sanderson. I've never gotten approved for a Brandon Sanderson arc. But hopefully I'm getting on Tor's good list, so I make sure that I do this right and get this review rolling for the Devils. Now, I did have someone kind of snap at me on Twitter and say, hey, I can't believe you're going to be talking about this book 9 months before it comes out. And I was like, is it really that far away? I guess it's kind of close to that far away. With this, it's like I'm always going to tell people what I'm reading. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. I mean, guys, I don't spoil books that are 50, 60 years old usually on this channel. I hate spoiling things for people. I want them to experience these books the same way that I do. Would I talk about if I like the book? Of course. I mean, that's just what the spoiler-free review would be. But my actual review for the Devils won't be until release day. I always do it that way. I might do the written one on Goodreads or something like that beforehand. But the actual video review for it, yeah, I always do those on release days. If you think I'm just hyping the book up for you and it's not available for 9 months, well, I mean, them's the breaks, man. That's the perks of being a reviewer. That's what you're there for. They want you to create hype to get people to pre-order the book. So I'm going to talk about the book, but I'm just not going to spoil anything for you. So no worries there. But again, this is my roundabout way of saying I'll be talking about the Devils a little later. How about this week on the channel? I did get out a talk about nothing, and I invited Richard and Austin from to ramble over, and it was a lot of fun. We talked for 2+ hours. It's just what I love about their channel is it takes me back to a time when before I did this and I did podcasting. And it's just so much fun to have someone to talk back to. It's just bounce back and forth and get varying opinions, and you can have, good, honest debate. I think that's a lot of fun, especially when you're doing it with a friend. It's a good format that they have over there, and to be able to kind of have like a trifecta here was a lot of fun for me. And I think those guys are just so easy to talk to. Really, really good lads. And I'm thankful that they actually came on the show for such a short notice. And I thought it was a pretty good conversation. We talked about all kinds of things, including the very hot topic of are audiobooks reading or not, because I feel like that's a topic that will never, ever die on these booktube streets. But guys, check out Two to Ramble if you haven't. They have great content. Even if, the three of us disagree on certain things, I mean, again, if we all had the same opinions, booktube would not be quite as fun as it is. I did my Into the Multiverse for Black House. That is the sequel to The Talisman by Stephen King, partnering with Peter Straub. And what I said when I talked about it briefly on here was that it felt pretty much on par with Talisman, meaning that it was good but not great. Nothing I'm ever going to be saying, I got to go read that again. But I did like that it leaned into the Dark Tower stuff a lot more than the Talisman did. Because the whole time I was reading Talisman, I was like, this just feels like the rough draft from when he was writing, Dark Tower. he fixes that with Black House, and he just kind of retrofits everything into the Dark Tower universe, and up to and including a gunslinger in the story. So it's one of those that took a while to get going, but once it got going, it was really, really good. But yeah, so again, if I could take the Talisman, all the coming-of-age elements of the Talisman, and then take the adventure version of Black House and kind of fit them into one book, I could have a really, really great King book. But as of right now, I think I'm just not a fan of King collaborating with anybody because it hurts his character work, and I think that's King's strength is his character work. I mean, you got two people trying to write the same character, and they've got very, very different ideas of how to write a character. It's a never-ending chess match that I don't think anybody really wins. But I love doing a good multiverse episode. Unfortunately, the only connection I had in that was Dark Tower. So there's some in the comments that brought some up. I can't confirm or deny any of those. But as of right now, the only connections that I saw. So as far as into the multiverse episode, probably pretty weak. That's why it was only like, I think, 12 or 13 minutes long, which is very, very short for me. But I also know it was a book that only really super diehard Stephen King fans are really into. So I didn't think I was going to be talking about that one for 30 minutes. But you're into the good old Silence of the Lambs kind of serial killer hunting game, I think it'll be something that you could enjoy. But if you've read The Dark Tower, I think it's damn near mandatory reading at this point because there are a lot of tie-ins with the Beam. How about some next week plans, guys? Got a couple of things here. I'm obviously already talked about. I'm going to do a review for A Canticle for Leibowitz because I think it deserves the full spoiler-free review treatment because there's a lot of ideas and things in there that I haven't really addressed that I think would make for a good review on the channel here. So even though book reviews are lesser desired content, I still want to make sure that I am doing those because, again, you have the name book reviews in your channel, you better be doing some. And I think that some books really do deserve it. And I think that Canticle for Leibowitz definitely fits that mold. So I'll be doing that. And also I'll be wrapping up the month of September as we officially kick off into spooky season. And September was a really, really weird month in that some of the things that went over well with the audience were surprising. Some of the things that didn't do so well, that was rather a surprise as well. But we'll talk about all those things and more like we always do. And of course, name my book of the month. It's actually going to be close. I've got two books right now, and I'm like, I don't know which one I'm going to pick. So I'm actually still deciding that as we speak. But I don't know. Usually I say if you watch these weekly updates, it's going to be pretty easy for you to tell my book of the month. But right now, it's a horse race between two of them, and I might be one of those where I'm still deciding when I press record on the old camera here. How about some TV and movie talk things? Real quick before I go, we started our spooky season movies over on Mike's book reviews. I'm sorry, Mike's media reviews. Apologies. Mike's media reviews. We're going to be reviewing real quick, 10 minutes or less, every single thing that we watched this year. So we did our lineup, but we've already watched like 4 or 5 of the movies. We did that. We also did just kind of an off the cuff one. We had the camera rolling. We're just like, what can we do? And I just said, rapid fire, and just started asking her some questions, and it turned into us talking about our Disney hot takes. Now, this isn't what usually Disney hot takes means. Usually Disney hot takes is, this is why I hate modern Star Wars, this is why I hate what they've done to Marvel. No, it's not that. What it is, we're talking pretty much Disney, Pixar, and classic animation Disney, favorite villain, and stuff like that. We just kind of just go on. Best soundtrack, some of the old live action movies, really just kind of went to like a nostalgia thing for, why we used to love everything that Disney, because we grew up with it. And it was a fun conversation. We ended up talking like 20 minutes about it. I released a clip on Instagram and people were really into it. So hopefully people will like that. So hey, keep checking out Mike's media reviews if you're into those kinds of things, and look out for some of our spooky season watches. We did The Pope's Exorcist last night. Liked it quite a bit, actually. I did watch this documentary, The Tinder Swindler. I think I'm the last person on earth that watched this. So many people when that came out were watching it. They had really good things about it. But again, for me, guys, so what I said when I talked about Lover, Stalker, Killer is just make sure you're doing a background check on someone. Don't just do a simple Google search because, people can plant that evidence out there. But it's just be smart. For me, the red light goes off when all of a sudden someone's asking for $20-something thousand. I'm like, I don't care if you're a billionaire. That doesn't check out. Something doesn't check out there. So for me, it's easy to see how he was swindling these people. But it's just like, wow, use your brain a little bit, But I mean, he's very good, clearly, because this has worked for dozens and dozens and dozens. That's just of people that have come forward. It just seems like it's just worked for a long time. People that are masters at a Ponzi scheme, man, they are really, really masters at it. And they always have the next one on deck. It's really, really kind of chilling in that regard. And it's another one of those Like, it was the guy that did Balco. I can't think of his name right now. Balco, the steroids scandal in baseball, and he basically got away with it. He's a millionaire right now, and I'd say this is what this kind of feels like. Kind of feels like the bad guys won, because seeing that this guy did all this stuff, all this evidence, all this digital footprint, and the guy basically served like 5 months in jail, and that's it. And he's still a millionaire. It's amazing. It's just a really, really tragic tale. But it's a very, very good documentary if you haven't watched it. If you are the last one not to watch it. I want to talk about movies that transcend time and generation. We do our family movie nights every week, and we let someone else pick. And this past week, my youngest, it was his pick, and he was going to pick a dinosaur movie. He's 9. He's still in the dinosaurs, obviously. I don't think that boys ever really grow out of dinosaurs, really. But he was just saying he wanted, but he was tired of Land Before Time. So he's like, let's watch Jurassic Park. I like playing the Lego Jurassic Park game. So we watched Jurassic Park, and oh my God, he's obsessed with it now. That's like all he will talk about. He's playing with his toys, and he's just redoing the whole Paddock T-Rex escape scene with his toys and stuff. It's one of those things you just look back at and you say, not only has that movie aged incredibly, incredibly well, but it's just like newer and newer generations just keep passing this down. Now, I feel like you can do that with any Spielberg movie, but with dinosaurs, it's a lot more accessible because, again, every new generation of kids love dinosaurs. And it's a movie that's just, no matter where you're from, what you're into, it seems that that movie resonates with everyone. I tell people all the time, hey, I think it's one of those where the movie and the book are like The Shining. They're both very good. And I think that they both bring a lot to the table. Anytime you can do a generation or two removed from a movie and it still resonates the same way that it did with you, I think that that's a movie that's just going to be, just put it in a time capsule, as it's just going to be eternal. People are going to be watching it forever. And I do think that Jurassic Park is, you look at all the sequels and stuff, and yeah, they all make tons and tons of money. And you may look at it and be like, this is not what Michael Crichton intended this story to kind of come to basically just be on every lunchbox and underoos that you can find in the supermarket now. I think with this is that you go back and you watch that first movie, the special effects hold up, the story holds up, everything about it holds up because it's just a timeless movie, and it doesn't matter what generation you're from. You're going to find something to like about that movie. And it's just magic. There's very few movies you can say that about, that it is just magical. And it's one that I think I probably watched, not exaggerated, at least 50 times, and I get something new that I love about it every single time. So really, really good, guys. If you haven't watched Jurassic Park at this point, I don't really know what to say to you, but make an appointment and show it to your young ones if you got them, because it's a movie that I think they are all going to enjoy. Just a brilliant, brilliant family movie that isn't just, the G-rated kumbaya kind of story, because it does have some scary elements into it. But you know what? What Jim Henson always said, it's okay for kids to be scared sometimes. Hey, look what it did to me. That's why I'm having a whole month dedicated to horror here on the channel. So guys, that was my week. I'd love to know what your week's looking like. Why don't you go ahead and drop in the comments, let me know what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're listening to, what you are playing, and let me know if you want me to get these back consistently on Fridays, because I know a lot of people do miss that, and I kind of got a little lackadaisical with it, but now I'm saying, hey, I need to get these back on Fridays, because a lot of people started to feel like it kicked off their weekend, and I love to help you guys do that. So drop in the comments, guys, and let me know what you're up to, and I will talk to you there.